Hey, everybody. Today's episode is dedicated to Judge Hastings and Judge Nugent from the Newport County Courthouse as we discuss recovery over recidivism and how the court essentially saved my life. Um, all right. So, as a lot of you people know, watching my series here, that substance abuse was a big part of my background, right? And with that being said, you end up plastered in the newspapers and on the internet, as well as ending up over at the courthouses and all that fun stuff, right? So over here we have the Newport courthouse, and to the left and right there are these black fences, and I'd be tying up my dog out there and stuff, and you know, being homeless with a dog, you're always in fear. What happens to the dog when I go to jail? You know what I mean, and stuff like that. So I had a bad history of kind of evading my warrants, right? Because it was getting to the point I had so many charges, being an addict, my family calling, every chance they could on me and stuff, that any time that I saw a cop or a judge, I'd be going to jail, right? So I would start evading, and it got to the point that I racked up, it was like 41 warrants, I think, in the state of Rhode Island, um, which is a huge number, right? So I would constantly now be in and out of the court, right? I was a big name, right? I created this big, name and reputation for myself, and nobody kind of knew or understood why. And this is where the small courthouses really kind of come in clutch. Judge Hastings being on that bench for so long, she got to know, the real me, not just my docket number. What made me tick, what made me triggered, if I was, mentally ill, an addict, or a criminal, and stuff like this. And she could decipher these things really easily because, in a sense, I know this man personally. You see what I'm saying? So as I was homeless and I'd be coming in and out of the courts, right? Which was incredibly frequent, like twice a week at some points, because I'd have to be checking in with probation. I'd have a court date with district court, a court date with superior court. I would have to check in with my bail monitor. I- I'd come in another day to make a quick $20 payment to the clerk. You know what I mean? It got to the point that I was on like a first name basis with a lot of people. And I used to talk about when I was homeless and stuff. And I still talk about today that, during that time of my life, that Judge Hastings was the closest thing that I had to a mom, right? And you guys know, getting dropped off at the homeless shelter and stuff like this. And I looked at her because not only did she have the power to be a disciplinary, right? Um, but you could tell that she had a personal interest in me, right? And that, well, I think I could say us, right? But either way, and I can tell that she was there to help, right? And so as I was evading the court, she discovered why, right? And she discovered that I was in fear of losing my dog and stuff, to like the pound or whatever, because I went to jail and whatever, So you know, she really kind of had to like be gentle and kind of reel me in and show me that there was nothing really to be afraid of going in and out of the courthouse and stuff like that, and that the court wasn't there to hurt me or whatever, And if it was like another courthouse, like Providence, for example, you're going to one courtroom today, another courtroom tomorrow, and stuff like that. That personal relationship wouldn't be there for her to have learned this of me, right? That I wasn't evading my warrants to be, a criminal and to be a schmuck. I was evading my warrants simply because I didn't want to lose Bruno. You know what I mean? And once I started learning this, it became to a point where, like, just like with a mom, you learn something new, you get a new, job or career, uh and you want to show mom, hey mom look, right? And it got to the point, like, I'd be in early recovery, and I'd be like bringing women to the courthouse to introduce them to Judge Hastings and shit. What I mean? But I needed that in my life at the time. You know what I mean? I needed somebody to impress, somebody to work towards. You see what I mean? Kind of like the mom, hey, mom, look it, I'm clean now. Mom, look it. You see what I mean? And she was able, and she was fortunate to have the small courtroom to fill that role. And I really think that with that, we found something special when it comes to our recovery rates, as well as our recidivism rates, right? Because if it worked for me, why not the next guy, right? So with that being said, right, and I would talk about it, oh, Judge Hayes, right? She's the closest thing I got to a mom, right? And then internally, and you think, well, then who's my dad? Right? So this would be Judge Nugent. He was in Superior, and right, and that's where you go when you get in big trouble. So that's, Judge Hastings, right? That's her version of don't make me call your father. Right? And we had Judge Nugent here. So Judge Nugent, back in my time of getting arrested and getting clean and everything else, he actually had, if you were in the prison system, he had a really tough reputation. You know, um, there was a rumor going around that he had a family member that had passed away of substance use, and because of that, uh, he would slap us substance users and sellers with very stiff penalties, right? And he would do it saying, "I'm doing it to save your life." And back in the day, when you're on the criminal side of it and whatnot, you're like, what the f? You know what I mean? You're giving me how many years, right? And, right, all this other stuff. But now in recovery, I understand what the man's thought process was. You see what I mean? Um, you go to a detox for 4 or 5 days, man, that's not enough. Even these residentials for 30 days, 90 days, man, that's not enough. It really isn't enough. You know what I mean? I'm not just saying that to be like, it's not enough. I'm telling you, I'm a guy in recovery. I've been in and out of all of those rehabs. I've literally toured all of them. I'm thinking about doing some episodes about like a review on each individual, rehab and their food and everything else, right? Because I get the knowledge because I've done it all, right? And I'm gonna tell you right now that even 90 days, man, that's why our recovery rate is so low, right? Um, so what ended up happening is I got in trouble and it got elevated to superior, and I can't prove it, but I'm almost positive. I mean, Judge Hastings working downstairs, they're gonna have conversations, right, about certain cases and about certain people and whatnot. You know, uh, so with my particular case, I ended up signing a deal for 15 months and a program, which would have equated to 18 months off the street, not including a sober house or aftercare, just controlled by the state. 15 months at jail in the program. 18 months to me was the ticket. I had done 6 months in jail before under, district court, and I had done, 3 months, and I had done right in and out. And, even that, one of the things that I had learned was like, Judge Hastings, I remember the first time she had to put me in jail, and I remember seeing her eyes well up, you know what I mean? And this is how the things that affirmed to me that she's not here to hurt me now. You see what I'm saying? And she wasn't trying to do that. If she did hold me, it was literally for my own good. You see what I mean? Like, I'm not throwing you in jail because I want the recidivism rates to go up. I'm throwing you in jail because I want the recovery rates to go up. You know what I mean? And if you're not going to walk into a rehab under your own volition, Rhode Island doesn't have the Section 35 like Massachusetts does. You know what I mean? So she'd almost be like my mom. Be like, what? You're on drugs? No, you're not. You're grounded. You're grounded till you're clean, mister. Right? That's how it did, and so now I'm starting to see it, you know what I mean? And we literally have a parental role going on. And I actually wrote Judge Hastings an email describing, my view on that, right? So as Judge Hastings had learned that I was, living in a tent and I was homeless and with a dog, and I was, injecting the drugs, I got caught with a needle at the court. I got caught with a weed bowl when it was still illegal at the courthouse, right? But it was just about to be legal. They tossed it out. But I got caught with a needle as well over there, and a needle in the state of Rhode Island isn't illegal unless it's paired with like a spoon or other paraphernalia. But it's a super duper red flag if you don't get diabetes that you're on drugs. So now that it was confirmed that the drugs are being ingested intravenous, Judge Hastings wanted more view on me. So she had introduced to my life, this is Denise Medeiros. She is the bail monitor, or was the bail monitor. I'm not sure if she's still there, for the Second District Court at the time. So Judge Hastings had me on like a bench warrant charge or whatever it was, and she would put me on like the bail monitoring, and she would continue my cases. So it would keep me on the bail monitor, right? This way I'd come in every week to touch base with Denise here, and if God forbid I didn't show up, she knew that something happened to me. You see what I'm saying? Because she knew that I was living an extremely risky lifestyle, and she had power to intervene, but only so much power and stuff like this, right? So knowing my personal circumstances, because she had the ability to, she was able to construct the court system in such a way to really kind of watch and monitor my movements, right? Which I started learning, now to navigate this, accountability. You see what I mean? And for example, I got to keep myself out of trouble, right? I don't want to disappoint mom, right? So I got to keep myself out of trouble, right? And this is when you started really kind of learning accountability, you know. On the note of the family tree, I do want to touch base on Uncle Judge Stone, right? This guy was incredible, wicked humble. I would only see him when Judge Nugent wasn't there, and he would, fill in and stuff. But Judge Stone got to be friends with Bruno outside and stuff, and he would always make sure you'd always have underneath that robe. He'd always have treats. Shit you not, right? It was adorably hilarious, right? And I haven't been able to say, good enough things about this man. He was a great addition, and it was sad to. I think he did retire. He passed away. It was sad to hear that. Um, but it was these people that really created this now simulated or surrogate family tree to start and press, right? And for example, you fear the discipline from dad, Judge Stone, right? And you want to impress mom, and mom's the softer, loving one, right? That you feel like you can go to. I don't want to say she's gonna coddle you. That's not the right word. You see what I'm saying? But she's the one that's gonna get to know you more, like interpersonally. You know what I mean? So now, for example, when she reports to dad, it can be really accurate. So coming in and out, over here in Rhode Island, we have the Providence Center, is one of our big residential programs. We got the Phoenix House here, and we got Bridgemark. Let me pop that one up. Oop. So these are the two that I frequented the most when I would go to jail and get out, go to a program, or if I was just I caught a deal for probation in a program, and I would, excuse me, be transferred to a program right then and there. So these would be the two that I'd be going to. Very standard, right? Both of them were very much similar. The buildings look different, but the groups, the structure, and then like the work freedom and stuff like that. They encourage you to get out there and get working and stuff like this, right? So what I had ended up learning though is that I'd be going to you go to the jail, for example, for the 15 months, right? And because you are there, you're there for over a year, it does kind of change your headset. You'll hear a lot of people talk about jail mentality, right? I got the jail mentality, right? And stuff like this, right? And they're not saying that they're institutionalized like permanently, but like, they're shaking it off. You take them out to a restaurant and they're still going to be kind of, having these little jail ticks about them, right? So you go to jail, like for me, it was you go to jail long enough, to get clean and start getting some distance away from the substance. And then you end up at a rehab in the groups. You start reintegrating into the community, right? You're working part-time, you're doing groups, part to full-time, right? And you're living under the safe structure of the program, right? And this was like the perfect, reintegration program, start getting out to meetings, get a sponsor, right? Because that sponsor is who's going to help you out once you graduate, the 90 days later, whatever it is, your personal connections that you made through the meetings in the halls are what's going to be what carries you. Found this picture of the courthouse at night. I thought it was pretty. So I'm going to put that there for my wrap up. So, all right. In a nutshell, like I said, it was really the small courthouse and the ability to get to know the defendants more personally, to understand the criminal mentality mindset, or if it's, addict mentality or whatever it might be, right? Because with a 2% recovery rate, that means a 98% failure rate, which means that 98% of the money that we're spending on recovery right now is a waste. You see what I'm saying? So even though it is going to cost more to house the addicts for longer, they get caught up, and instead of it being 1 month, hit them with the 15. You see what I'm saying? In the program, right? And it's going to cost us more upfront, but in comparison, long-term investment-wise, we're going to end up saving money because we're not just going to be wasting 98% of the recovery, funds here in the state. So thank you, everybody. for checking out this video. I really hope that it falls on the right ears. I hope that I articulated everything right and that it all makes sense. I know it's new ideas and stuff like that. But all right, until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.